Hey Thumpers, welcome back to another film review from Hyper RPG. We are here to review one of the most anticipated movies of 2017, Edgar Wright's Baby Driver. Ooh. So good, so good, so good. Just want to preface this by saying this will be a spoiler review, so if you have not watched the movie yet, make sure you check it out. In short, it's great.
Go see it.
Go see it, but don't watch this review until after you have seen it because we will be talking about plot details. Man, this movie, let's just get right into it, man.
So, written and directed by Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
Is it the first movie he's done alone? Because I know Simon Pegg obviously wrote the other three with him. Scott Pilgrim was based on an existing property that I believe that writer also helped him with.
Yeah, I believe this is Edgar Wright's first solo outing.
And what a ride. Yeah,
literally.
We did the 2 trailer reactions to this movie when it was supposed to originally come out in August.
Yeah.
And then it got bumped to June.
Because it was so well received at South by Southwest.
Yes.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. I think it lives up to the hype. I think the cast is great. Yeah. The soundtrack, it felt like a 90s film, for lack of a better term, which is to say, like, if this was the 90s, you would get 2 CDs.
Yeah.
Like
totally.
Trainspotting and Romeo plus Juliet style. It'd be like Volume 1, Volume 2.
Yeah.
The music is great. The cast is great. I mean, that's all the kind of basic stuff. I guess we should talk. I think the easiest thing to talk about is probably the plot because it's so simple.
It's very simple.
It's one of those classic, one more job, one final job.
Yep.
And then
it's what the Fast and Furious franchise have been saying for the last 4 movies.
Yeah, he thinks it's one more job, and then he gets pulled back in, and he has to complete that one more job. And at the same time, the little nugget that's got thrown into this is he meets a girl named Deborah.
Or Jonathan.
And they want to try to escape and get away from this together. It's kind of a they're even referred to once in the film as Little Bonnie and Clyde,
which
and that
was
kind
great.
of a thing.
That was great.
But it's very simple. I mean, this is not a movie where you're going to talk about the plot. That's not one of those films. It's not that intricate, and I think that's why it's able to kind of stand out and breathe, and the things that work really well is because the plot is the most basic one-sentence kind of thing.
It really is. I mean, it really is. It literally is about a driver who's just pulling off these jobs.
Yes.
And it's cool because we do get a little bit of backstory from Kevin Spacey as to how Baby, who we later find out his name is Miles, which I'm like, that is a very fitting name. Miles, Baby, driver, great, good job. But yeah, it's very, very simple. Basically, Kevin Spacey sees this kid doing this job, pulling this heist, ripping him off.
Yes.
And lets him do it, and then later recruits him to be the driver. And that's all it is. That's as basic as that relationship is built, but it's then built upon, heist after heist after heist after heist.
And Kevin Spacey's whole thing is that he never uses the same crew,
twice,
which makes it interesting because then you see a lot of recognizable faces. He does different jobs throughout the movie. You see recognizable faces through some of these jobs. Some of them return, some of them do not.
Pairing up different people from different heists together. Very interesting.
Yeah, and so, but again, like I think it's all the plot's very basic. What makes this movie work and what makes it one you want to watch, I think, again and again and again, is the little details. I think the way Wright shoots the film, it's very exciting. It's propulsive.
Yes.
The fact that he almost uses, or he does pretty much use music for editing purposes, that the edit is almost timed out to the songs. This movie is almost completely wall-to-wall music to the point where when there are scenes where the character, he has multiple iPods, when he loses an iPod or something happens and there's no music, it stands out.
It does, absolutely.
It stands out when there's no music. Like it almost feels like, and it's done very, it's thought out. It's very thought out as to like when there will or will not be music. I think the little things the cast do. I love Jamie Foxx in this. So
great.
Jamie Foxx playing that character.
Oscar shit.
Yeah,
like his little moments. I'm like, all these like little moments that he adds to it, and all these like characteristics and these little traits that he gives his character of Bats is so great.
Yes,
and it's very like not necessarily that it's like subtle, but it's so perfectly timed.
Yeah, and I will say too, I think and what I love about that character is he's one of those characters that you don't know what he's going to do next. He's very unpredictable. And again, that's something you can do when you make a movie out of a very basic plot. You can make the more characters more interesting.
Yeah, they can breathe and live a lot more in the script.
John Hamm, I think is great as the character who's like his literal code name is Buddy.
Yeah,
he's the character that's your friend and ends up being the worst person throughout the whole movie, which is great. That's a great little twist. I love the him and her tattoos that he has with his partner on their neck. And I mean, Kevin Spacey at the end of the day, I did a written review on the website. You should go check that out. I dive a little bit more into some details, but Kevin Spacey, this is a role that he could pretty much play in his sleep. But that doesn't mean it's not fun to see him do.
That's the thing with Kevin Spacey is like he is such a master actor that he could almost play anything, but he plays this with such ease that you feel like it's so natural for him and it's so easy for him, but he still makes it count. He's still, when he delivers lines, you're paying attention to him. He's got this this quick humor, this quick wit to him, and it's so great.
And I think the two leads, Lily James and Ansel Elgort, I think are both very good. They're very, for lack of a better term, very cute. But it's cute without feeling kind of like gross or you don't want to see it.
Totally.
Lily James, so I do want to address this. There's been a little bit of controversy on some people who didn't like the movie about Lily James being a character without agency.
Right.
That
she
she's
really
more
propel his story.
And I don't, because Guillermo del Toro touched on this in a series of tweets. I don't necessarily disagree, but I disagree a little bit in the fact that she does. She attacks John Hannam at the end.
Yeah.
She's not just a passenger, which is what some of the complaints have been. And I think we get enough elements of her life to see why these two connect together.
Yeah. Totally.
And why there's a connection between them. Ansel Elgort, I think, does a great job as well. I think that's a character. It would be very easy to dismiss an actor doing work like that because for the most part, he's a reactionary character.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people think that's easy to play a character who, for the most part, is a blank. He's not a total blank, and that's where you get the soundtrack stuff in there where he dances around the street and does stuff like that. But a lot of this movie is silent, blank facial expression as Jamie Foxx or John Hamm paint things on him. And that's a very hard thing to do as an actor.
Totally.
And I think he actually pulls it off very well. You're rooting for those two characters.
Absolutely. I mean, and like there's another performance like we talk about quite a bit. I usually will bring up like Tom Hardy as Bane in the Batman movie.
Yes.
He's a guy who has his mouth covered the whole time, and he has to really express through his eyes. And I think that's one thing that Ansel Elgort does really well in this movie. He's very expressive through his facial features and physically how he moves. The opening sequence when he goes to get coffee and he's kind of dancing around the town. And it's all like this really intricate one take of Edgar Wright just moving the camera around and Ansel Elgort going around the town. And it's great because it really gets us to understand who this character is. And it's funny you bring up the music. Edgar Wright, from what I was listening to on a podcast, he pre-selected a lot of the music and he wrote the story to the music.
Scorsese did the same thing for Goodfellas.
Yeah. So I think that's why it works so well, because having that all predetermined allows you to kind of build that into the character, build that into the script. And it does kind of build a foundation for the character because it informs you a lot about who that character is and what his style is. And then you get the whole backstory of his mother, how she was a singer, her style of music that she was really into. And you can then see that kind of sprinkled throughout the soundtracks and the music that's used throughout the movie. And I think that was what makes that movie so good, is because of the way it's edited. And when you don't hear music, you hear what Baby hears, which is this loud ringing sound that Kevin Spacey says he had an accident when he was a kid. He has a hum in the drum and he uses the music to drown it out.
Yep.
And I love the fact that when you don't hear the music, when he's running at the end of the movie through the city of Atlanta, you get an understanding of what he's hearing. And it is kind of disturbing and it's uncomfortable because for 90 plus minutes, you've been hearing this great soundtrack, underneath all the great sound effects.
Yeah, and I think what I also like too is other characters talk about music and discuss music, and I like that. Unlike a movie like Suicide Squad, the music in here is done to propel character.
Yeah,
and not just him, but every character. What each character listens to, how they interact with music, how they react to music, and how they react to Baby's tendency to listen to music. It's all very simple things that inform all the characters. And also, I think it's probably worth noting out, Ansel Elgort was on the short list to play young Han Solo.
Yes,
I think seeing this movie, especially when he's in the Han Solo color scheme of black and white, I was like, oh.
He's dressed as Han Solo in this whole movie.
I'm like, I get it. Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah. But and we're saying all this. The movie's also still very funny. It's Edgar Wright. It's a very, very funny movie.
It's got great humor.
There's a great sequence with a young actor who plays Kevin Spacey's nephew.
Yes,
which that kid was
good.
Very funny.
He was, and he was like so. For being a kid that young, he was just like, he got it.
Oh yeah,
he had like one major line delivered, and he just nails it on. Like it was great.
But I was walking when I left this movie, I was kind of like, man, you could. And I'm someone who plays GTA a lot. You could have just called this the GTA movie, because there are scenes where it's like straight out of like some of the GTA games where it's like you're driving on the wrong side of the freeway, 80 cops are coming at. Yeah, 80 cops are coming after you, and then your car breaks down, so you come out with a shotgun shooting, and then running. And I'm like, this is a GTA. This is the GTA movie we wanted. We just didn't know we wanted with a different soundtrack. And everything, just call it the GTA movie. But yeah, no, I loved it. I'm seeing it again in a couple days. I'm really pumped about it. Like it really was one of those movies. Like even movies I love, I can walk out going, I don't know if that worked. I don't know if that worked. And nothing about this movie I can really tell anybody. Again, if you feel the Lily James character was not developed enough, I can't disagree with you on that. At the same time, I also felt that like this was his story more so than hers, but it's worth addressing. But at the end of the day, there's nothing I didn't like about the movie.
Yeah, like it was weird because I think also because of what we do and what our job is, we watch these trailers over and over and over and over and over again. And because this movie premiered at South by Southwest, a huge amount of people had seen it. Then within the last like month, it's been having a ton of screenings.
Yes,
they're really Sony's really trying to get the word out on this movie. They want people to go see it, so they're doing a lot of screenings. And
some of the people we know who we've worked with have like already seen it 4 or 5 times, just based off of screenings, and we're at South by and all that stuff. And that's just to tell you, if they're going to see it a 5th time, and it's only out 2 days,
exactly. And I think the big thing for me was, and I mentioned this to Zach and Malika was,
who also loved it.
Yes. I think the thing for me, a lot of people were talking about the beginning. The beginning, it's this big, epic, crazy, cool thing. And I think because I had hyped it up in my mind so much, when I watched it on screen, because we had seen a lot of that stuff in the trailers, it's a lot of the stuff. So it should be worth mentioning that John Bernthal has a very small role in this movie.
Yes.
Everything that you see in the trailer, that's basically his entire time in the movie. So
Flea, similar to Flea, which I could see some people, maybe it wasn't a problem for me, but sometimes occasionally when you put very recognizable people in small roles, some people find that distracting. I think because we knew they were in it, it's not distracting, but I could see people retroactively going like, I was waiting for them to come back because they're a name.
Exactly.
You know?
And I think that was the big thing for me was when the first sequence happens in the opening of the movie, I was like, oh, this is the whole John Bernthal part. This is the big action sequence that people were talking about. I think I may have just overhyped it for myself.
Right.
So when it happened, I was like, oh, it's still awesome. And the fact that Edgar Wright did so much of this movie in camera, I honestly couldn't spot. Like, if you were to ask me to point out what the CG stuff was, I maybe will point out like 1 or 2 things, but the majority of it looks excellent.
Yes.
And especially if it's all mostly done in camera. But once I got past that point, I was like, okay, I need to kind of take my expectations and lower them, not because the movie isn't good enough, but because I have mentally overhyped it. And you know, like Zach was saying, you know, he's so busy that he doesn't have all the time to watch all these trailers and follow the reviews and all that kind of stuff. He went in with a kind of a blank slate, and he was just totally blown away by it. So, but as the movie progressed, you know, I really, really got on board with it really fast.
Yeah.
And I love the relationship that he has with his foster dad. That was foster dad who can't hear. They only communicate through sign language. And even though his screen time is also limited, but it's sprinkled throughout the movie in the imperfect parts, at the end when he has to drop him off at that like care center,
care home,
care home, I felt a lot for that. There was a lot of emotion just in their exchange of dialogue of how, you know, Baby continuously tells him like, I just don't want to fail you. I don't want you to get hurt. And it hit me. It hit me pretty hard.
Yeah, I think what makes it the reason this works at the end of the day, because you have a lot of movies with like very stylish action that people will talk about, but and that has this, and it's got a great soundtrack. But I think the thing that's going to propel this movie, I think the reason the people are falling in love with this movie, and again, seeing it 5 times, it's only been out so long. I think it's because it's got a big heart that's genuine.
It is.
Again, that romantic relationship, it'd be very easy for that to fall into Nicholas Sparks territory.
Yes.
And be very corny. And it's not. It walks a line. It's very, very sweet. They do have a meet cute, but it avoids the trappings to make you kind of go like, oh, all the action's great. I don't care about this. The relationship between him and his stepfather. Even there's like a little term with Kevin Spacey where it's like, God damn it. And like he ends up helping the kid out.
Goddamn tape.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes this work. And that's why I think to some extent we fall in love with a lot of the movies we fall in love with. It's because there's a heart to it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like had this just been like a great action set piece, fantastic. And we love a lot of great action movies. And you'll remember great action movies, but you're not going to sit there like you would an action movie that's got something else to it.
Yeah, and I think part of that also has to do with a lot with like these two characters written. I think it's also because they are younger characters.
Yes.
So they bring a lot of heart to the story. And yeah, like surprisingly, Kevin Spacey, you know, there are moments where you think that his character is going to turn, Doc is going to turn against Baby, and he doesn't. And I kind of kept waiting for this twist of like, oh, he's going to turn against him. He's going to turn against him. Nope. He still has his back because they've been, you know, they built this relationship over all these years where Baby's repaying this debt for all the things that he stole from him. And it just really made for a really, really great movie. And yeah, I think that's the big thing. That's the big takeaway is even though it is this action movie that has all these great stunts, these great comedic moments, it has a lot of heart in it. And this character, you can feel like he's really trying to get out of this and he really wants to be with this girl. And even at the end of the day, they do kind of end up together, but he ends up being in prison for all the crimes that he's committed.
Yeah.
It's
got the thing of like when I wrote about in my review is that it is at the end of the day a crime power fantasy like many films. At the same time, because fast cars, beautiful women, great music, cool people. But there is also the downfall of it, and he doesn't want this life. It's the opposite of Henry Hill in Goodfellas, where Henry Hill's like, I love this, and he brings about his own downfall. This is a character who's trying to get out of it as hard as he can.
Yeah, this is my last one, and he's just like, you're the last one until your debt's repaid. And it's just like, they go to the dinner. And Kevin Spacey's there, and he's just like, you thought this was the end? Like, of course not.
Also, I want to shout out a fun little cameo by Paul Williams. Paul Williams was the guy at the old man in the white suit at the drug when they went to go get the weapons.
I was trying to figure out who that was. I couldn't figure out who that was.
Paul Williams, for those who don't know, the villain in Phantom of the Paradise, the Brian De Palma movie, also the man who wrote the Rainbow Connection. He has an Oscar music songwriter, Paul Williams. Great song. So it was really fun to see him do. Yeah. He doesn't act much, but occasionally he does. It was kind of fun to be like, oh, Paul Williams, when he popped up in the movie. I was like, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, my final thoughts on this movie is I think it was a really, really, really good time at the movies. I actually do want to go see it again. The action is so well choreographed, so well shot. Every single time there's a heist, and it is very action oriented. There is a lot of action in this movie. It moves. Like there's no slouching moment in this movie. Even when it doesn't involve cars, when it's just baby having a good time with his foster dad, when they show him delivering pizzas, it's very, very short. But it's just like a great little moment to give the character of like him really trying to get out of this life. So overall, I thought it was a really good time, and I can't wait to see it again. And again, just like any other Edgar Wright movie, I cannot wait to see what he does next.
Very exciting, very exciting. Yeah, I'll go see Baby Driver and go read my review where I dive a little bit deeper. But yeah, let us know what you thought. Please hit us up on our Twitters at Hyper. If you're someone who didn't like Baby Driver, please let us know. We'd love to hear that.
Yeah,
love to hear that.
I haven't met too many people who haven't liked it. There have been a couple people I met who are like, no, it's okay. I want to know. We definitely want to know what you guys think. Let us know in the comments below. Hit us up on Twitter. Me at Adam Hlavik, him at Jurassic Alien. Hit us up at Hyper_RPG. Make sure you guys subscribe here, youtube.com/HyperRPG for all the latest videos and reviews. Stick around because we're going to also be reviewing Spider-Man Homecoming.
Well, not me.
Not you. Bye.